Hey, what's up guys? It's Rico here, CEO of SourceFind Asia, host Made in China podcast, and the host of the SourceFind Asia YouTube channel, of course. Back with another one. Chilling by the pool, about to go for a swim, and I wanted to record a video, an update video, on why it's dangerous to negotiate too much with your suppliers.
I notice when I walk outside, I hope this pays off. One day I chose it, one day, someday I hope it. Went in the big labels and saw plaques on walls, but I didn't post it. Didn't want to gas or boast it, that's not one of the things I'm made of. But one day will it pay off? Mum says I got to do music, and dad says to not quit my day job. It's a hard one still, it's not fake, the bars are real. Sometimes I can rely on people's advice, I can't rely on pills. I notice now, things keep falling down. When they fall, I still build them up. Hard when you don't know how. Something's changed, yeah, you know the deal. At the end of the day, I'm over that one still. Over that one. When I play shows, I'm sober at none. Not from London, no the accent. Not just talking, loads of action. Is this music or is it acting? One step forward, then go backwards. Think it makes me over anxious. Things can change, it's known to happen. I feel like I don't need people's help. And then when I think about it, I'm proud I could have been someone else.
I'll give you another example of that. Like a couple of years ago, we helped a business friend of ours and one of my good friends now sort of figure out the pricing for his watches. I think I probably told you this story before, but we ended up going to the market. So he was working with an assembly house that made maybe one or two components of the watch. And there was probably about 10 plus different components to his watch. So we went to the watch market in Guangzhou and we literally just took a couple of his samples, broke them into the different components, and then went and sourced every single component at the market. And just doing that, we were able to go, oh, he's paying $15 a watch from his supplier. We could probably put this watch together for $3 to $4. So that's a big part of it. And there were some specific aspects of the watch that the assembly house had just marked up ridiculously high. So even if he had just, let's say, sourced two of those components himself, he would have been able to lower the cost significantly. So instead of just trying to negotiate things, understand the product, do the research, figure out all the different components of the product, and then you're able to actually ask the right questions and sit down with the factory and say, okay, so how much does this cost? How much does this cost? How much does this cost? Okay, so if I source this aspect myself, how does that affect the product? I could probably find it cheaper somewhere else and bring it to you guys. And most of the time, the factories are not going to have too much pushback when it comes to that. Of course, there'll be certain things they might say, well, we source it from a reliable supplier, so if you go buy this component from somewhere else, we can't really guarantee the quality or whatever. Like those are some of the negotiations you're going to have with a supplier if you're really trying to go down that route. But yeah, I would say instead of just going there and trying to drive down the price because it increased, understand why the price has increased from the minutia of the different aspects of the product and where those things are being made and how much they cost to be made. Also, pick the right time to negotiate with your supplier. I mean, it's very obvious that right now, in this climate, it's probably not the best time to be negotiating with your supplier for multiple reasons. Like the stuff that I mentioned earlier is that there's a limited amount of suppliers. A lot of factories have lost a lot of money this year. They're not running at full capacity. Like, more likely for a factory to just reject your project if you're coming out of the bat trying to negotiate in this period of time. If you have a long-term relationship with the supplier, I think that you can sit down and have a conversation with them and say, hey, look, I know you're going through things, I'm going through things within my business. How can we sort of come to some reasonable agreement? Maybe we come up with better payment terms right now rather than lowering the cost. We get payment terms, and then when things kind of pick up again, we can maybe talk about the price. So that's when you start to build a and that's also timing, right? Like, you don't necessarily want to negotiate too much on your first order, but maybe on your second or third order, especially if it's within a short space of time, then you've built up trust with the supplier that suppliers, okay, this could be recurring business. They might want to appease you a little bit more. And at the same time, you should be, when I say build a relationship with supplier, you should also be building a personal relationship with the team. I know that it's more difficult now to do those kind of things, but you can still create a WeChat group, you can still have video calls, you can still hire an agency like myself, like our company, who can do those kind of things for you, build the rapport with the team, and be the face of your company in China. So I think it's really important, just the right timing. The right timing is extremely important, and then just take into consideration everything that's going on when it comes to negotiating. Maybe this year is just not the right year to try to get pricing down. Maybe try and wait until after Chinese New Year next year. However, there are certain industries that have exploded this year. Exercise equipment in general, obviously the PPE products, it's twofold, right? Like the PPE products exploded so much, there was so much demand for those products that a lot of factories came up, but the supply wasn't enough for the demand, so the price went up. With exercise equipment, I think it's kind of leveled out more now. Like we have one of our longest clients, they went from shipping like, let's say 3 to 4 containers a month to shipping 10 containers a month. I mean, it's been very crazy here. So in those kind of situations, if you have a long-term relationship with a factory and your business is now exploding, your orders are now exploding, you might be in more of a position of power to go to the factory and say, hey, look, we are about to like 3-4x our orders. I know you guys are also getting a lot of business, but we've known each other for X amount of time. We've been consistent with our orders. Let's talk. I think that's another aspect. So like timing is everything. The rapport that you have, the guanxi that you have with your factory is everything as well. A point that I've made before in probably the previous version of this video is squeezing your factories too much kind of puts them in a position, because there's a thing called the Chinese yes, which is, because they want your business, they're going to agree to everything that you're asking for. And that might include also getting the price points to what you want. But they're going to figure out a way to make that money. Like it's just, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And what's most likely going to happen is they'll cut corners in raw materials. So maybe for a typical product, like let's say a leather bag or whatever, they might always order their leather from this specific supplier that's guaranteed high quality leather or genuine leather. And then they were like, our price has gone down, we gave them 30% off the price, so we're gonna have to figure out where we can get 10% off here, 20% off here, whatever. It might be the leather supplier. They might go and work with another one that doesn't necessarily guarantee high quality leather or genuine leather. So I mean, those are the things you always have to keep in mind, is if you squeeze them too much, they're going to try to figure out a way to cut corners and make their money up somehow. It's just never a smart idea to try to squeeze a factory too much. And then you also have to be aware, if the factory is just saying yes to everything, you need to also understand the market. Like if you haven't done enough research, your factory's saying yes to everything, you might end up in the exact same situation I'm talking about. So you need to know, like if you talk to 30, 40 suppliers and generally what the average price should be for your product, if another factory comes in and says we can do everything that you want at 30% off, something is off there. You got to figure out what's going on there. You'll probably end up with an inferior product. So yeah, that's my 2020 update on why you shouldn't negotiate with your supplier too much, and just some tips on how to negotiate with your suppliers. Again, just like from a position of power, man. Like I think we have to be realistic with our expectations. I think we have to realize where we are right now in 2020 with the whole COVID-19 situation. I think we have to realize that China has changed. It's not as cheap as it used to be, but there isn't too many other options. Alternatively, I mean, you can go to Vietnam, you can go to Thailand and all that stuff, but right now it's even more difficult when people can't travel. Like those countries require a lot of you being there to kind of figure out how things are done. Whereas China is like set up, you can work online, there's sourcing agents that are available, there's QC companies and all that stuff, so it's easier to work through China. It might not always be the cheapest, but most of the time it will be. So yeah, just hang in there and pick the right moment to negotiate, and don't get too crazy out there, right? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and like, comment, share, subscribe. I am fucking exhausted after Muay Thai. I just want to relax in the pool for a bit, so I'll see you guys. Cheers.
Too far to turn back, so win or win is my only choice. I release songs they think it's for them, it's a cry for help but they miss the point. What's mad is when I speak for them, I feel like I lose my voice, yeah. But I can't linger or dwell on things. Yesterday's gone, it's been better since. Still outside and I'm settled in. Still more scared than I ever been. Still feel blessed like I never sinned.